Greetings, friends. This reflection is for the seventh Sunday of Ordinary Time, and this is the Sunday before Lent, and according to the liturgical calendar. Now, we continue to dissect the Sermon on the Mount account, in which this time here he continues to remind people what it was said in the past, but only this time he offers something that is probably contrary to what the old law is. And the idea is that Jesus wants people to know that basically is that it's a continuation of the antithesis. So basically he is challenging the scholar's call. Challenging what it was said in the past by the old law. And he says, you have heard it said, blah, 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 blah. But then he says, but I say to you. And this one here talks about how we are called to love one another. If someone slaps you on the cheek, turn the other one. And it sounds a bit radical too, and I think that's kind of hard to. But I think when we look at it, if we have to look at it from a different perspective, what Jesus is calling us to do is he calls us to go further with our faith. And I think for most people, it's been a challenge for us to understand, because sometimes we are guilty of taking things literally. I mean, when was the last time we haven't done so? Guilty as charged, I don't know. But what I think it's something that I've kind of struggled with. So, Jesus gives us the confidence that we need, and when we look at these teachings, there's this theme of unity or peace. And when we come together, in fact, there is a Hebrew song that quotes parts of Psalm 133, and there's a very popular hymn in Hebrew that's very, very common. It's a very popular song in Israel. And of course, Jesus reminds us what will happen, like an eye for eye, tooth for the tooth kind of thing, where it's like revenge. It's another way of saying it's like revenge. What Jesus tells us is that revenge is not going to restore the relationships. But I think when we look at it, and we also look at how it correlates with the book of Leviticus, the first book of in the first reading, is in our culture today, let's face it, it's broken. We have broken families, we have broken homes. What Jesus gives us as we continue with the continuation of the Sermon on the Mount is that God's mercy is rooted in his covenant. In the first reading, we were reminded, you should not bear hatred for your brother or your sister in your heart. Though you may have to reprove your fellow citizen, do not incur sin because of him. It goes on to say, do not take revenge. I am the Lord. And we also look at the responsorial psalm chosen, and it is a reminder of God's mercy towards his people. And this theme, this psalm runs throughout the scriptures. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. He pardons all your iniquities, heals all your ills. Merciful, gracious is the Lord. Now, some of us may wonder, how does the letter to St. Paul to Corinthians tie into all this? Truthfully, that's been the trickiest in my opinion. But when I look at this reading from Corinthians, We are a temple of God, and we are called to respect that temple. Far too often, we have fallen short of that. And I think if there's one thing that we can learn from all this, and honestly, we're seeing this in our culture today, because there are people out there that carry very deep wounds. And the only way they think that they could heal is if they lash out. Look at the Karens that are surrounding you, and you're just like all the Karens that complain or yell at you for no reason. Or if you're peacefully demonstrating outside of an abortion facility, how often people try to trip you up, give you one of these fingers I'm holding up here. When in reality, they're pointing to God. Okay? Just want to let you know that it's not a screw you thing, but it's like, I'm pointing to God, okay? Go about your business. But let's face it, our society is filled with so many deep wounds that we think that the culture is going to heal us. True healing can be found through Jesus Christ alone. It is through him he shows us this radical way of sowing his love to others. Love is the key. Now, I'm not just saying like going around like, oh, I love you. Not that kind of thing. But rather we have to have love in our thoughts, words, deeds, and actions. That's how we share love. The ultimate example of love can be found in the crucifix. That, to me, is what love is. He didn't just lay down his life for his friends, but he also, when he hung on that cross, he thought of you. He thought of the times you were going to have so many tribulations in your life. But he didn't want you to fear. Rather, he wanted you to know that he overcame them, just as you will. Through God's mercy, all things are possible. Through God, all things are possible. God alone is the answer. Friends, as we prepare for Lent, let us not take for granted that there are things in our lives that need a really good cleanup. There are relationships that have been broken because of what's happened in our culture. You're going to encounter people who have been hurt by the culture of death, directly or indirectly. You are going to encounter people who think that they know the church teachings, yet they have not been properly catechized. Whatever it is on this long list I just verbally gave you, God's mercy is awaiting them. He wants you to seek his mercy now. Don't wait when you're on your deathbed. Seek his mercy now. Live a life of penance. But most importantly, help someone return to the faith. It's not going to be an easy task. But all things are possible when we empty ourselves and let God in. So friends, let us take that extra step to help someone heal. Let's take that extra step today to be followers of Christ. Love one another, my friends. God bless.